Hello, I'm Dr. Mike, and I'm here today to share with you my website, theailersdanlosproject.com. I have 5 goals for this project. The first and most important is to alert the public and healthcare professionals about Ehlers-Danlos syndrome as being a common genetic disorder that is not fully appreciated for its health consequences. I have been seeing patients with metabolic bone disease and collagen disorders, including Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, osteogenesis imperfecta, and Marfan syndrome for more than 40 years. I've seen over 25,000 children and adults with metabolic bone disease and these collagen-related genetic disorders. I've seen over 3,000 infants, children, and adults with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, especially hypermobility type, which is the most common. This website will offer an opportunity for me to share with you experiences directly from my patients and from subjects that participate in my Ehlers-Danlos clinical research program. They'll give you a good insight in what it's like to be living with this genetic disorder, to have many of the medical symptoms associated with it that physicians were unable to connect dots and often write them off as being depressed or even doctor seeking. The second goal is to continue my very productive Ehlers-Danlos clinical research program. This program, approved by the Institutional Review Board at Boston University School of Medicine and conducted in our clinical research unit, encourages families, at least one family member having hypermobility, EDS, and to have all family members, up to 4 generations, to come in and to see me and my team, and to be carefully evaluated for their medical conditions and careful physical examination. And then we obtain a buccal swab or a blood sample to do a genetic test on their DNA. We do whole genome sequencing. The ultimate goal of the program is to identify genes responsible for Ehlers-Danlos clinical problems, and ultimately using molecular biology techniques to find ways of developing new approaches for treatment and ultimately to cure this common genetic disorder. The third goal of the project is to educate patients with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome that they can have a variety of medical problems that can really impact significantly on not only their health, but their lives and their livelihood. And I'll be providing guidance for how to deal with many of these medical conditions that I've had experience with in over 40 years of treating infants, children, and adults with this genetic disorder. Another goal is to assist families to realize that this genetic disorder can affect the joints, causing joint clicking, can cause easy bruisability, can increase risk for fragility fractures, and have other medical conditions. And by being knowledgeable about this, to avoid non-accidental trauma. And the fifth goal, which is very important, pregnant women need to be aware, if they have this genetic disorder, that they have a high risk pregnancy. They have many complications and often are more prone to having miscarriages. And I'm hoping that based on our basic and clinical research activities, that we will be able to develop a prenatal test so that they would know beforehand if the infant developing fetus has this genetic disorder and may have some complications associated with it, even before being born. So the bottom line is that my goal is to make the public and healthcare professionals much more aware of this common genetic disorder, develop new approaches for diagnosing and treating this genetic disorder. We recently had a case where in utero, a mom with hypermobility EDS had a fetus that had multiple fractures. Based on a clinical research program, we did whole genome sequencing and identified a gene responsible. So over the next coming weeks and months and years, my goal is to be interviewing patients and subjects in my clinical research program and to talk about all of the conditions associated with this genetic disorder and how they've been dealing with it in their own way, and based on some treatment options that are available to them, and also to give you the most up-to-date information about this genetic disorder. And the research that we're doing is to bring you up to date on the latest developments. So thank you very much for your kind attention, and look forward to having you participate in my website. Thank you.